A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people. When you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead. Because they have no sources. They just make them up when there are none. The fake media is trying to silence us, but we will not let them. The left-wing media doesn't want to solve problems. They want to stoke resentment. It has to stop.
Well, how time flies. That was President Donald Trump during his first stint in the White House. Back then, it seemed that hardly a day went by without the president lashing out at what he called the fake news media. Well, how time flies and how times change. That kind of loud vitriol has been toned down during Trump 2.0, but journalists and media observers are now ringing the alarm over different kinds of attack on the press. Besides defunding public media outlets like PBS and NPR, the president has filed a flurry of lawsuits in response to unflattering reporting that he calls fake news. He filed the first of them in 2024 while he was running for re-election. He sued ABC, claiming its anchor had defamed him when he said a jury found Trump had raped E. Jean Carroll. In reality, he had been found liable for sexual abuse. ABC's parent company, Disney, settled with Trump and agreed to pay $15 million towards his future presidential library. Now, later that year, Trump filed another lawsuit, this time against CBS News, over the editing of a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. Paramount, CBS's parent company, settled just weeks ago, saying it would pay $16 million to that same library. Now, Trump escalated his legal campaign against the media this week with a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal and its owner, media mogul Rupert Murdoch. The paper had published a story about Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. On Truth Social, the president posted, "We have just filed a powerhouse lawsuit against everyone involved in publishing the false, malicious, defamatory, fake news article in the useless rag that is the Wall Street Journal." His words, not mine, I insist. He went on, "We have proudly held to account ABC and George Slopadopoulos," he means anchor George Stephanopoulos, "CBS and 60 Minutes, the fake Pulitzer Prizes and many others who deal in and push disgusting lies and even fraud to the American people." And to figure out where this is going, I'm joined now by Jeff Jarvis. He's a journalist, writer, and media commentator. He's also the author of the book, The Gutenberg Parenthesis, The Age of Print and Its Lessons for the Age of the Internet. Welcome to the day, Jeff. It's great to have you on the show. Now, what is President Trump trying to achieve with these lawsuits on media outlets?
Attention and distraction. I think first off is distraction from the Epstein story. Oddly, he's only drawing more attention to it, but that's the way he operates. Toddlers, when they get angry, stomp their feet and throw their toys around. Donald Trump threatens to and often does file suit.
Is it working?
You'd have to look at media to see how well it's working. How much do they pay attention to that? The fascinating thing here, of course, is that Rupert Murdoch, who I think is the most malign influence in English-speaking democracies around the world, is the corporate entity that made Donald Trump, along with NBC and his entertainment guys. And so I think it's surprising in a sense that he would go after Murdoch, but in a sense, he doesn't need Murdoch anymore. He's in office. He's not in jail. He's making lots of money in crypto, whatever. So he takes out his anger, whoever is in his face at the moment.
I want to look at the Murdoch case in a second, but let's first look at the ones that have been settled, the ones with Paramount and Disney, because frankly, Trump's cases were never the strongest, but the companies are seemingly just bending the knee. Why are they settling and not fighting when the chances to win are not that slim?
This is the essence of authoritarianism. This is the essence of fascism in America. It's the essence of pure power. And so you have major law firms, major universities, Harvard and Columbia, major entertainment empires, Paramount and Disney, indeed bending at the knee and only getting kneecapped. It does them no good. They pay millions of dollars. They cancel Stephen Colbert, which is a magnificent show. They do everything they can to make up to him. Heck, once again, I got to bring up Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch made Donald Trump. He has an entire network devoted to slathering all over him, and that doesn't protect you either.
Do you expect Rupert Murdoch then to settle as well?
I don't think so in this case. Of course, Rupert Murdoch had to settle in the case of the slander of voting machines and the companies that make them. In this case, no, he's got an excellent case. This is ridiculous. Donald Trump is certainly a public figure. There is a defense of truth. There is no apparent malice here. This will get thrown out of court eventually. And I still have a little bit of hope that that'll be the case. Though God knows when this gets to a Supreme Court, in this case, when our court has been taken over by the right wing, I can't have 100% confidence this will go nowhere. But I think that Murdoch's lawyers, who are very good, will fight this and win in the lower courts handily and quickly.
Yeah. You mentioned Stephen Colbert there, a producer at 60 Minutes who was at the core of the suit against Paramount shortly after or around the time of the election, stepped down saying that he could not be the journalist he wanted to be anymore. Are we watching news organizations being intimidated already into pulling their punches in their reporting on the president, you think?
Indeed, we are, and not just in direct ways, also in many subtle ways. I grew up admiring the New York Times. Now, day after day after day, I use the hashtag Broken Times to look at the kind of coverage that they do, trying to normalize what is happening in this country right now. The Washington Post is even farther down the slope. And one by one, the last talent at the Post is leaving under the Murdochian managers who are there now. Public radio, which has just had the money pulled off from underneath them, has gone more cautious. Major mass media in this country is not serving the purpose of the public. That happens at the same time that mass media is fundamentally, in my view, dead. That era is over, and we're going to see, after a period of much chaos, probably a replacement coming in other voices and other ways. But for now, what we have is major media failing at their task to inform and protect the public.
Why is that? Is that because most of the outlets that you just mentioned have broad corporate interests behind them? It's not the case, of course, for public media. So why are we not seeing more resistance? Why are we not seeing the Fourth Estate, as you're suggesting, living up to its true function?
I think it's a good question, and there's a lot of nuance here. One is that we have this myth of objectivity, especially in American media, which happened when mass media took over. When we used to have 46 daily newspapers in New York alone. Those days are long gone. The plurality of voices that existed in media are long gone, and media thought that they had to serve everyone all the same, and so they became tapioca in their voice. At the same time, I think you see something like the New York Times is trying to convince itself that it is not owned by its liberal readers. The major support of the New York Times now is not advertising, but is subscription. And when that happens, the newsroom realizes that the readers are the boss, and they want to kind of prove to the readers that you don't own us. And see, we irritate you every day. So there's pressure from the right against the New York Times. It's been there for years, calling them fake news, especially Donald Trump. And now there's pressure from the left, who are profoundly disappointed in how the New York Times is covering our world.
You mentioned that, the media as we know it is dead, and Trump is waging a war against it. It does look right now as if he's winning. Could he, in the process of doing this, maybe inadvertently be opening space for something else, something more robust to emerge?
That's another good question. I think Trump has long since won against the media, and he doesn't need us anymore. He doesn't need people in media anymore. He's in office. He's not in jail. He's making money. He's not going to run again, God willing. And so he can reject everyone who helped him along the way, all of media, even including Rupert Murdoch. What comes in the huge canyon left by mass media, I hope, is the voices of the public, is more plurality. Before the mechanization and industrialization of print in the mid to late 1800s, the average circulation of a daily newspaper in the United States was only 4,000. It was a Substack newsletter. It was a podcast. It wasn't huge. It was only with technology that media became huge. Well, now the internet tears down that monopoly and that scarcity that existed with media. And so we see it in podcasts, in blogs, on social media, everywhere. Still often served by big companies, but we have the internet and we can use the internet in open ways apart from those big companies. And so what I hope occurs is that we see again a grand plurality of voices and perspectives in media and not a monolith of one or two voices.
But you and I were both trained journalists. We know our craft. We know how reporting works. Not everybody who's out there on the internet knows how to report in a balanced way, how to report facts and distinguish them from lies that we're seeing, of course, also proliferate on new media, on social media. So how does that bode for the future of journalism, that plurality that you see coming?
A few answers to that. One is that at a high level, there are organizations in the U.S. One is called Documenters, that is training citizens to go record and cover local government meetings. There are a lot of efforts like that, I think, to train people better. But at the end of the day, the decision as to what is true or false lies with each of us. You know, for another book I wrote, I looked at what people did before print. And there was a social system that was called FAMA, it is said, which rested on your trust in who you heard the story from. If the innkeeper in town generally got things right, hearing all the things of the people who passed through, you trusted the innkeeper. But that tavern keeper over there, he always lies, he always gets things wrong. That's where we are right now. And it's difficult because we are not trained individually as citizens to be able, I think, to cut through what might be falsehood, what might be propaganda, what might just be simple mistakes to figure out what we believe. But in the end, that responsibility is going to fall on us until and when we invent new institutions. When print came along, we had to invent the institutions of editing and publishing to bring that kind of credibility and authority to print. Now that print and mass media are in the past, I'm not saying print will go away and die, but mass media, I think, are dying. Then we have to invent new institutions that will curate reliable, authoritative, responsible information for us.
More media literacy for the post-media age. That was Jeff Jarvis, a journalist and author and media commentator. Thanks so much for your time.